I didn't say anything.
Yeah,
That's you. Okay. Let's start this lecture. First thing is yesterday this one didn't work, right? Yesterday, the moment I arrive home, then I realize the problem. The problem is the order, because when JavaScript execute code, it's gonna execute this one first, then you're gonna execute this one, but it will fail here. So this one is not gonna registered. The order. You will see this error. Because JavaScript execute the code based on the source code, right? So if I put this one after it, when you throw the arrow, this arrow handle is not registered. It's not there. Understand me? Because after this one, you failed, will it reach this code? No, that's the reason. Okay, so switch the order. The moment oh, I see. Okay, that's a problem. When you have to switch order, generally this window unload, you will put before all the body, then you will see this arrow, and that is caught the error. Now let's take a look at today's lecture. Today we will have very important lecture. You're going to use a lot of times in the future, okay? If you want to deal with JavaScript. We're going to cover promise and async await. And today we will also write our client side, which is single page application. We connect to what we learned yesterday, like the RESTful API. Let's take a look at our promise. We already seen lots of asynchronous APIs, like set timeout, set interval, those, right? JavaScript execute code in a single thread, which brings a risk of blocking the thread if a single line takes too long to process. Suppose you have a loop like a 1 million, then you're gonna block the single thread, and all other lines will finish until all other lines need to wait until the current line finishes. Otherwise, it cannot process. For example, we will see Ajax, which is use alternative solution called fetch, which should be done indifferent because Ajax is to make a request from client to the server side. And the first time we introduced about the node, we talk about IO latency. When you have the request of the network, it's gonna be very slow. Okay, even though we don't feel that much, but actually it's very slow compared with from the CPU to the memory or disk. It's gonna be very slow. So we have to do those kind of requests in a different way. Here, what is a promise? Do you remember I covered about callback here? In callback, we have callback, which is when we read a file, we write a file, do something else, right? Promise is also the content we introduced today, like promise async await, is also a way to solve the callback here, because we have callback gonna be executed asynchronously, right? It can solve, but the problem with callback is you're gonna have indentation, and the purpose is to solve the callback issues. A promise is an object that represents something that will be available in the future. Something means a value, either arrow or either the actual value, okay? A promise proposes that instead of waiting for the value we want, like we download an image, we will receive something that represents a value in that instant, so we can get in our lives, so you can continue executing other code. But actual value were generated by the promise, some point go back. It will give you a notification. Okay, my the data is ready. It's exactly same when we do file system dot read the file or write the file. When the file is ready, right? Then we will call the callbacks. Same thing happen on promise. Okay, promise are based on time events and have some state clarify those events. Okay, first one is pending. This one is we're talking about the promise is still working on the file, working on the data give back, and the result is undefined because it's not finished. Like suppose we use promise, which is make a request from client to server side. We are still the request is still ongoing. Okay, and we don't know the result. And fulfilled is where when the promise return the correct result, the result is a value. The value can be a user, can be a collection of user and extra. And reject is when you have errors. Suppose you are making requests from client to server, suddenly your network is down. Then you're gonna have errors. You're gonna be rejected. Okay. How to create a promise inside the JavaScript? This is not specific to Node or Express. Okay, this is JavaScript. We're coming back to JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript has an API which is added in ES6, and it's called a class. You can consider as a class of a construct function called a promise. Okay, since it's a class, we use a new keyword, and when we give promise here, we'll give what thing? You have to give a function. A promise, this constructor, it will accept a function, and in the function it expect we give to another function, resolve and reject. Resolve, reject are both are also function, and what's going to be returned is going to be a promise object. Okay, the function passed to the promise is called executor, which is the one highlighted using yellow. When the promise is created, the executor runs automatically. Only the parts resolve and reject are going to be asynchronous. Now let me show you this one, okay? Here I will have a. So here I just create a promise, and here you have to give a function. The function here you can give a error function or give a normal function. Resolve, reject. First, this function we provide is called executor. Bless you. Okay. So far, because later on I'm gonna put something in the middle, okay? So far I just write this piece of code which create an object called a promise and give, because the constructor expect us to give function, right? So you have to give a function, okay? Do you remember if I have yesterday when we write a product class, the constructor expect we have ID, title, price, description, right? So we give the values. But for the promise, it expect us to give a function. So that's why we give a function here, understand? Okay. Then when we execute it, you'll have 1 and 2, which is what's going to happen is this line, okay? When promise is created, the executor runs automatically, okay? Only the parts resolve and reject are going to be asynchronous, which means when we do this one and this one is going to be asynchronous. See here, console log is synchronous code, right? So when we execute the promise one, this JS file, this one going to be executed, this is going to be executed, right? And later on we'll come back. We'll come back for the resolve reject. Okay, let's go a little bit later. And what is resolve and reject? Resolve and reject are callbacks. Callbacks means what? Function, okay? Resolve, reject are also function. So when executor obtain the result to be soon or late, because it's time, okay? It doesn't happen immediately. It's not it will give you as the value in the future. So doesn't matter, it will call one of these, either resolve or either reject. Oh my God. What's something? Oh, there's a what's thing happened? there's a very famous, like a long time, like a two guy, which is the like a singer, right? Actually, they are doing what? They are ask someone record they use their, they don't sing. They will have someone else record the thing, and then they just like you know fake, okay, and eventually one day they found out how they found out the what's in the play music thing have problem, which is like just now people playing the words repeat, then I found out, okay, I forgot or Jacob or someone. They were very popular before they were being found out they are faking some thing. Okay. Okay, when the executor obtain the result, okay, you have to either call resolve or either call reject. Resolve means success. Reject means you failed, okay? Should we call success fail at the same time? No, that's why you have to call one of them. The first one listed in that in the executor, the first one gonna be used, and later one gonna be discarded, okay? Because you cannot be success and fail at the same time in this logic here, okay?
The future is pending.
Executor.
Pending.
Yes. Okay. It's the pending is here. If we didn't actually get the result, it's gonna be pending. Okay. What do you mean pending here?
So you said there's pending, there's resolve and reject.
Yeah. By default, it's gonna be initially is a pending. Yeah, that's here. You take a, the promise object has internal properties. This one internal, you cannot see it. You're gonna use internally. The state initially is a pending. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Promise. Okay. Can you see here, pending? Okay. Even though I have a resolve, because the function, right? Function I can resolve like suppose I say hi. When we resolve here, he will have value, but we don't give the value because we already say the result is coming out. Okay. But if we don't resolve and didn't reject, you will see the pending. Okay. Because resolve we yes, resolve we already did. Let's see okay. Error. You will see here, see here, promise rejected error, this one. You guys are, okay. So here, this is pending, which means you didn't call resolve, didn't call reject, it's gonna be pending, okay? And you need to change to be fulfilled, or if it's resolve code, it will change to be fulfilled. If reject is code, it will change to be rejected, okay? And the result initially is gonna be undefined. If we resolve, that's gonna be the value. If we reject, it's gonna be error, okay? Now, let's go back here. Okay, take a look at guys. First, you will my bad. You will realize one thing. They have one here. Hey, I resolve between 1 and 2, right? This is my 1, this one 2. I resolve between them, but why is it being printed? Oh, because I returned. Okay. This one is not because this is 1, this is 2. This promise is after I. You got this one, right? Why? Because I call this one, I call this one. This is object, right? It's okay. Now, what I want, I don't want to have a promise thing. I want to have this high, the value, right? You got me? I don't want to use this object because the thing I want is I want to get this value, right? How to get this value? Yeah. This is another demo, okay, which is a promise. You can inside you can say, oh, I will resolve it after 1 second, okay. This one is after 1 second, I will reject it, okay. Now, goes back to our question. How can I get the values? A promise serves as a link between executor and the consumer functions, which will receive the result and the error. Consuming functions can be registered using methods then, catch, and finally. This is still similar to the observer pattern. If you have time, I suggest that you take a look at observer pattern, really widely used, especially in what? In event-based programming, like JavaScript is event-based, and Node.js is kind of also event-based. And the observer is event, register event and then do the things. You take a look at it because when we talk about a consumer and a publisher, it's kind of also an event, okay? Observer. So what's going to happen? Is suppose I want to get this result or I want to handle the error. You have to use then, which is the result gonna be whatever you resolved. And if I use catch, gonna be the error, gonna go here. Finally, it's like a try catch block. No matter you fail or success, I'm going to execute, okay? So let's go over a simple case first, how to do it. Dot then, okay. What's the value? Value, okay. And suppose if later on I will do error, then catch, okay, then ERR. And we will have it will have finally. Finally, what's the thing? Finally, you just give a function and it doesn't give anything. It's like a try catch block, nothing. Okay. I will have inside finally. Okay. And now let me show you. You see 1, 2, high inside finally, right? You see here 1, 2, high inside finally. Okay. So here because I'm high, so the value gonna be high. Suppose I'm going to reject it. Let's do oops. You see oops, which means whatever you have in the reject, okay, if a new error or something, it's gonna become the value of this ERR, okay. And let's take a look at the asynchronous part, okay. Okay, I have a start here, I have end, right? Let's take a look at why it called asynchronous. Got this? And this is oops inside finally. So what happened is when JavaScript executed code, first we must use start, right? And then here I say I create a promise. And as we explained earlier, in the executor, except resolve, reject are asynchronous. All other code is synchronous. So this console log is 1, console log 2 are synchronous code. Synchronous code gonna execute first. So you're gonna have start 1 and 2 here, okay? And then we talk about what? Resolve, reject are asynchronous, right? Here is to catch the value of resolve. Here is to catch the value of reject. Here is a finally. All those piece code here, when we do catch the value of resolve, reject, it can be asynchronous. That's why this is synchronous code, execute first. Then because we are rejected here, so we're gonna do what thing? Catch the error, gonna be oops, and inside finally. So that is why I say promise is asynchronous API, okay. Do you guys have any questions so far? If not, let's do another demo, okay? When I have resolve reject at the same time, the first one reach, the first one gonna be used. You see, hi. Because we can only do resolve or reject, okay? The first one is reach, I'm gonna use this one. For the reject gonna be not doing it, okay? Because it cannot be success or fail at the same time. Ask you another question, okay? It will go catch or go to then. Okay, take a look at this code, okay? Wait a minute for a second. Okay. Just now, I just change here. It's going to be catch or then. No, I just want you to see the result here. Right here.
Catch method.
Exactly. I have catch method high because here no matter a type of ABC or BCD you know it's gonna be the first one when a popular it's gonna always popular resolve. Second one gonna give you reject. Okay, you got it? Okay. This is a function declaration, right? Declaration, which means the argument name can be anything, but when internally, when JavaScript call promise, it will set the value here is resolve, set the value here is reject, okay? I just realized a lot of students are confusing about the thing here, okay? The name doesn't mean anything, just the value you hold means the actual value, okay? This one, let me make it more advanced.
So we don't memorize what come first.
You don't need to, no, you have to understand this one gonna be resolved, this is gonna be a reject. If here I use A, B, C, D, E, F, you have to understand this one is resolved.
But in real life, I have autocomplete when I type number, they give me parameters. So if you can check something like that in the exam.
You have to understand.
Mm.
Okay, if you don't remember it. Okay. Greater than 0.5. Okay, then we can do like this way. This is very basic, no need to memorize. Okay, if we really understand what is function declaration and what is a core function. Okay, this is a function declaration. Okay, the arguments can be any value. So let's I just add a random here. So sometimes you will see then method being called. Sometimes you will see what's the catch method being called. Okay, this one is then, this one then. This one is catch. Okay. Just to mimic some cases gonna be success, some cases gonna fail. Promise chaining. Promise can chain, but what happened is take a look at it here. Okay. Promise chain. JS. Okay. First, here let's try one more time. Here I use ABC, DEF. Okay. If you don't understand, you got me. Okay. ABC gonna become resolve. DEF gonna be reject. Okay. What's going to happen? Okay. Then you also need to understand what this thing. What is this one? Reference to the log function, right? Is it the same as this one? Wait a minute for a second. Okay. This line is exactly same as what? This one and this one, they are identical. Okay. Because then you expect to have a function, right? To have function. And here we define arrow function here. But actually log, it is a function. The reference to the function, okay? If you don't take a look at source code, see here, log is what thing? Is a function. So we just put a log here, okay? So this line and this line, they are same, doing the exactly same thing. But let me change this one because sometimes when I'm lazy, I just say console log. Okay, I don't do that. I'll have value return value multiply 2. Okay, you got me? This one. Okay, so now I have a const PR promise equals, I will do this thing. You got this, huh? So guess what's the value? What's gonna be printed? Just a guess. 2, right? Okay, let's take a look at it, okay? You're not 2. promise chain, right? The problem is what is a chaining? This is what's the chaining happening here. What's going to happen? The thing is, we know this ABC is actually is called a resolve one, which will give a success value one, right? And then we know here the value will become one, right? And here we expect to actually return two, right? It's not. What's gonna happen? Yes, exactly. Then here we not return two. We are return. You can in the slides I use another API. Okay. Official documentation use promise.resolve, but here for us to understand better, you can consider return value multiply two is return a new promise, resolve, reject, and do what thing? Resolve value multiply two. So return to here is not return to, is return a promise resolve value multiply two. Okay, that's why. If you don't know why, you see two. This whatever the then return what, then always return a promise to you. Okay, so if you really want to get this value, you have to use another then. This value gonna get the value. So one more time, okay. When in the then method, you return some value, no matter 2 or ABC, it's gonna become use a promise resolve at the value. That's you, and you will encounter of chaining lots of time in the future, okay? Because we're gonna do a JSON, inside JSON we'll do something else. So you're gonna have then and then. When we return to, it's not return to, it's gonna return promise resolve to. And if you want to get a value gonna become this value, okay? So you can continue chaining like our thing, okay? Suppose here I return value multiply 2. It's not a return 4. It's gonna return promise resolve 4. So later on, if I want to actually get a value, you can from here, then console the log. Okay, this promise, this one, this value won't give the value 1, 2, 3, 4. It will give you a promise. Okay, see here, it will always give you a promise. See here, promise pending, and it will give 4. The 4 is because I did it here. If I don't have this one, you only have anything being, you only have this promise being printed. See here. Okay. Understand? This is chaining, okay, like here. This one is just I have a set timeout. Let's practice the set timeout here. Here I immediately give the value, right? Resolve 1. You can do is a set timeout, which is what's the ABC. We have to have a wrapper, okay? Which is 1 second. I will do what's the resolve it. After 1 second, I get the value. Okay. Because after 1 second, I resolve it. Kind of something happening in the future. Mimic the behavior. Any question? If no question, I'm going to next one, okay? Next one, async await. Async await is added in ES7. Promise is added in ES5. 6, okay? Async await is just a special syntax to work with promise in a more comfortable fashion. This, as I explained earlier, promise is to solve the problem of callback. Callback is also asynchronous, right? But a callback has, lots of intentional thing. Okay, promise is trying to solve the problem of callback. But do you like this kind of code? You still need to use then, have a callback here, then callback here. It's not very nice, right? So in ES7, it add another special syntax. And you will see the code is much simpler and is look like you are writing synchronous code. Async await have 2 parts. First, it has async keyword. When we put async keyword, you put in front of function declaration, and then it will turn that function into a async function. And await, this keyword only works inside the async functions. You have to, when we want to use this keyword, we have to use it inside the async function. Await can be put in front of any async promise-based function to pause your code on the line until promise fulfills, return the result, or reject the value. Okay, let's take a look at the demo. First, async can be placed before a function. See here, a function. Okay, you just put this this function here, and when you put it, you just put async this keyword in front of the function. Then this function will become a asynchronous function. You can think this function is a promise because async await is nothing special. It's just a syntactic sugar over promise. It's like class is a syntactic sugar over construct function. Okay. When no return statement is defined, which means I don't have anything returned, right? It's gonna do what? It's gonna equivalent to be return promise resolve. Okay, I have nothing there. Okay, generally gonna be undefined. Okay. And when you return statement here, return one here, it's actually promise dot resolve, like a new promise. I have a resolve that value there. Okay, we will show you in a minute. Okay, so and when an error is gonna be promise reject. Now let's take a look at this one. Okay. So here I have, let's have a console log start. Then I will have another one console log end. Okay, here I will have a function. The function doesn't matter you are error function or you are anonymous function. Okay, I mean doesn't matter you are using function declaration or function expression or error function. Okay, so I give a full here. Okay, return 1. When we call full here, oh sorry. If we do like that way, this way, it's gonna be start 1 and end, right? No doubts. Okay, let's execute and show you guys. You see 1 start end, right? Now the only thing I did is I add the async here. Okay, now let's take a look at your. What's the value? Promise. That's what we said. Async await is not something special. It's just syntactic sugar over promise. So when we add async here, this function will turn into a promise. So when here we return 1 is actually what? Return new promise resolve. Okay. You got me? You don't need to have reject if I don't use reject. Because JavaScript, if I have 4 parameter, 4 arguments, you don't need to list all of them, right? Because it's gonna be undefined. Okay. So when we return 1, it's gonna be new promise resolve 1. That's why here when we call function, even though here is return 1, it's actually return a promise to you. Got it? The thing we have to change a little bit. Okay. When you see return 1, it's not a return 1. Okay, it's a return promise resolve 1. You got it, sir? So now ask a question. How can I want to get a value 1, not a promise 1? How should I do? Dot then. Guess what's the result? What's gonna be printed in the console if I do like this way? Start. Promise 1 and 1 exactly. Very good. So I have start, promise 1 and 1. Okay. So this one is because this is I make a call function, right? It's gonna immediately return. Okay. Okay. Very good. So that is async function. Okay. Async function is just a promise. And now await. Just now we still use then to resolve this full, right? We don't like it. Okay, then we will have another keyword called await. The keyword await makes JavaScript wait until that promise settles or return and return is real. Settles means return result means success. It also can be failed. Okay. Await literally suspend the function execution until the promise settles and then resume it with the promise result. Okay, that doesn't cost any CPU resource because JavaScript engine can do other jobs in the same time, execute other scripts, handle events. Okay, while it's waiting, you know, while it's waiting, because it's asynchronous, while it's waiting, it can do other things. We will show you in a minute. Okay. Async await is just a more elegant syntax getting promise result that are then promise dot then. Okay, so now we don't use then. What's gonna happen? We will have another demo. Okay, so this is another demo, right? We don't want to use this one. Instead, we do what? He said, okay, I can use await, right? Let's try use await here. So let's see, okay. Then we will see an error. Yep. Oh, async too, okay. I was surprised it works now, okay. So what's the error? Let's take a look at it here. Await is only valid in async function and the top level body or modules. You ignore this part, okay. We only care about this part. This one talking about await is only valid in async function. Is here in an async function? No. So in order to use await, we have to we have to let me explain when I go over slides. We have to put in a function, and this function must be a async function. Okay. You already see a syntax error. That's a ID give us. Okay. Then we call bar. See here. He said that I have to be function, right? So here I create a function. When you see here, only a in async function. So you already see syntax error, right? It must be an async function. Okay, async function. You see, start, which is this start, and this is when we get the promise, right? Which is executed this function. Okay, we don't get the value. Only the resolve reject part is asynchronous. Okay. Then I call the bar here. So here I call the bar before the end, right? But we go to the end first. Then we got the result 1 because here I result 1. Take a look at here. You will get a start, and this one gonna be promise 1, okay? And when we execute a bar, and this will treat it as asynchronous code, okay? Then because here I have await here, okay? Then I will go to the end here, okay? And one more thing, let me remove this one. You get you more confused, okay?
It's supposed to be more elegant, like more code than just taking.
No, you will see when we go to the fetch, okay, we will show you a demo. Because the problem why it's not elegant is because we have to add this is an async function. This function gonna be return result. We put it here, but actually it's gonna send from the network. So you don't have this piece of code, okay? And then you only need to write this piece of code. We will see, okay? First, let's get familiar with the syntax. We will show you later when we do fetch, use promise and async await. You will see the difference, okay? And I like it. I'm not sure about you, okay? We will see in the future. Don't worry. I will show you guys. Here. I do like this way, okay? This is my synchronous code, right? This is another synchronous code. Actually, this one is also synchronous code. Only await here gonna pause, okay? So here is the difference between await and with the promise. In the promise executor, this executor, this 1 and 2 will be all synchronous, gonna be happened before this end, right? Do you remember? Okay, but it's not the case of the await, okay? In the await, this one gonna get executed, and all the thing after await gonna become asynchronous. Let me show you. If it's like a promise, I'm going to see what? Start, inside bar 1, inside bar 2, and 1, right? But it's not like this way, okay? That's another difference between the thing. You see here, start, inside bar 1, and 1, and inside bar 2, which means what? When you see all the things, all the statements, okay, no matter it's a synchronous code, asynchronous code, after this await, you have to wait till all the synchronous code finish. Okay, did you see here? I was started inside bar 1, and here after this inside bar 1, okay, this one is my await, right? Await pause there. All the code after await pause there. Then you have to finish all other synchronous code. This one is synchronous code, right? Then come back to the await, which is resolve 1, and we'll get a 1 and inside bar 2. That's the one difference between promise and the async await. Any more questions you guys have here? If no question, let's go over slide. Say this one cannot use await in regular function. If we try to use await in non-async function, it will have a syntax error. I already showed you guys, right? It must be async. And await cannot in top level, which means I do await like this way. I already showed you guys. Okay, you're gonna have an error thrown when we execute. Now, error handling in async function. When we do promise, how do we handle error? Catch, right? Catch, okay? And how can we handle the async function errors? Let me show you, okay? Is it me? Oh. ASYNC function, I will call foo, okay? Then here, I just threw new error. Error is like a Java, you have an exception, okay? What's the thing? Oops. Okay. This one throw error, right? And as we explained, think about it. You already know the one way to solve to get the error. Which way? Because this async function is a promise, right? Then we can do what? Foo dot catch. Okay, ERR. What's in console log? I just do console log. Okay. Catch. Okay. Right. We know promise can use catch, right? Async function eventually is a promise, so you can use catch. Node SYNC error. You see here, catch, right? And we can do like this way. Or another way. Because this is a function. As we know, when we call the function, right, we can use the try catch block. Okay. You got me? When we write synchronous code, if I want to try catch, I use try catch, right? Something happened in JavaScript, okay, try catch block. And you can have finally, if you want to have finally, you can have finally, okay. Like a console log, finally. Okay. Format, okay. Let's try this one. Did I catch the error? Yeah, you can see here. Finally. This error, did I catch it? If I catch it, you obviously catch block the error, right? Oops, right? But I didn't catch it. What's the reason? This catch didn't catch the error. Because this is what thing? Asynchronous code. Try catch is what kind of code? Synchronous code. Synchronous code gonna execute first. So when this one through the error, try catch is already finished done. That's why in this case, we cannot catch, okay, if we write a code like this way, but we can do like this way. When we await means what? Pause here, okay? But when we use await, you cannot do like this way. Because you have to add the async function, okay? Oh, don't worry, you see it's tedious, okay? We will see the more demos. You will like it, okay? S1 function bar. Okay, then we call bar. Okay. Oh, let me add a start and end. Okay, so you guys can see what's gonna happen. Okay. Let's execute. See here, start and catch block, right? And finally, so still this code is asynchronous code. Otherwise, we will see start something and end, right? So you will see start, end, and catch. What's the catch method? This one. This one. If you want to use try catch, you use wait. You will like this one more than dot then dot catch. Okay, because this one is very straightforward. It's like what you are writing synchronous code. We will see more demos later. Okay. Before I continue, do you guys have any question on this one? Yeah.
Can we use another question this one?
Which one?
Instead of
But if I don't use another function, you're gonna have syntax error here. You have to do something like a. You have to have a const late. No. Const bar equals this. But in one, that's a good question. In one place, do you remember here? This one, when you hear if it's async, right? You will see later. You just add. You can mark this one. You can mark this one to be async function. Then it's gonna be promised. But in this case, we need to have a name. Okay, and here you can do. We will see later. Okay. Any more questions? Oh, arrow function also works. Okay, suppose here is arrow function. Arrow function also works. Take a look at here. Take a look at. So any function, okay. Just anonymous. In this case, we have to do when we register. Okay. More? No more. Let's take a look at it here. Let's go over. See here, two ways to catch. Either you have async function, have a try catch, here have await, or either you can use a catch like what we did in promise. Okay. Okay, you are good, right? Yeah, good. Now let's continue. So we have another 10 minutes. Okay. Now, when we use async await and promise, right? And the API you learn here is use the fetch. And when you go to MWA, when we connect to connect to database, right? Database also is async function. Then you have to for this lecture course on the server side, which is Node.js, we won't have a chance to use async await because we are using in-memory database. And if you like Java Node, you can go to MWA. MWA on the server side, which Node will also use promise and async await because the API connect to the database is gonna be asynchronous API. Okay, and for us, promise and async we're gonna use in our client-side project, client-side project, which is running in the browser. Okay. So yesterday we have our server, okay? And we use the Postman to interact with our server side, right? We want to have application, okay? And then how can my application running in the browser to talk with my server side API, right? It is called a fetch. Fetch is a global method. The fetch API provides JavaScript interface for accessing and manipulating parts of the HTTP pipeline, such as request and response. Fetch is a global method available in browser, okay, not in Node, okay, browser. And it will provide easy, logical to fetch resource asynchronously across the network. Fetch is to replace Ajax, which is XML HTTP request. Some people, if you worked with jQuery, you know Ajax, okay? But jQuery is completely replaced by React and Angular. So we no longer teach here. And this previously achieved by XML HTTP request. This is created by Microsoft when they're trying to do the Outlook. They want to when they have new emails, right? They want to, load that thing. But this one is very difficult to use. The time when this one comes out, it still have IE6, IE7, very difficult because different IE, it behave differently. That's why we have jQuery, okay? jQuery have a wrapper called .ajax to do that. Oh, we don't use none of them, okay? We use fetch, okay? As I remembered, like in Angular 6 or 7, it still use Ajax behind the thing to do the HTTP module. They have a HTTP client module to make a request in Angular. They still use Ajax, but I'm not sure nowadays, okay?
When they use observables, they don't use the promises.
No, observable is what's returned.
What's written?
Yeah, what's being returned by the fetch? It's gonna be it return observable, but I'm talking about not talk about the return type. They return observable, but what the method used to make a request?
HTTP client.
What behind the HTTP client? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Anyway, yes, it's gonna use it don't use promise. It's gonna use observables. We learned. Okay, observable. Huh? Anyway, it's gonna help you understand. Okay. Promise. Fetch. This one you must give URL where to ask for the resource, and this option is optional. Okay. First one is URL optional gonna be have method and headers and the body of things. Okay. Without option, it's just a simple GET request downloading content from the URL. Now let's take a look at this one. The fetch will return a promise. Okay, you give a URL, then my bad. You because I click the URL. We give a URL when you call fetch, it will return promise. And since you get a promise, if it return values, you just use .then. If it through error, you have a .catch. Okay, you can also have finally. The browser will start fetch the start a request right away, return a promise that calling the code should be get a result. But a promise will give us the result. In fetch will give us the result in 2 steps. In this case, we'll get a collection of products, right? But when we use fetch, it will give you the result in 2 stages. The first one, when we call then, this response doesn't have the body. Okay, doesn't have the value which a collection of user there. Instead, this response will contain the information with the headers. Headers gonna have what? What's the content type? What is the response is okay, status, those things. Doesn't have a body. So here, when we first time we use then response, you have the headers. If I want to get the value, you have to call the JSON second time. Then you will get the value. Okay. So if you guys don't understand, we will show you. Okay. I have to jump one slide. Okay. Let's first demo a simple case. Okay. I will write my code in the client, and this server is the server we did yesterday. So first thing is going to do is I will add one here. Okay, then I will use an npm start because I configured start. Oh, I found another thing. When we use when we create a project without using npm install or npm init, we directly use npm install express, right? You're gonna missing some things. You want to have what's that? You want to have in the package.json, you will only have dependencies. You won't have those things. So it's better you have npm init first. You can try by yourself, okay? If you create a new project, directly use npm install express. You want to have the things are highlighted here. Okay, you can try by yourself, okay? So I have my server started. Now I have to create a client to make a request to my server and then to display the value, right? So here we have to set some values first. Post data Apple 88 great 4 and HP 99 grade 5. Okay. Get products. I have 1, 2, 3, right? Okay, now my server side is ready. How to write a client? Make sure you separate in different folder, okay? And it's like a project. All the things belong to server, put it in server. All things belong to client, put it in client. In client, generally you have 3 types of file: JS, HTML, and CSS. Okay, so let's have let's make it more advanced. Okay, so I have my CSS here. I have my JS code here. It's inside here. I have my JS code here, and then I have my HTML. The HTML I call index.html. You got me? And then here, suppose my CSS, I will have a main.css. Let's just have a background color, which is pink, okay? Background color is pink. Okay, then for the JS, we will do, let's have a index.js here. Let's call main.js, okay? Okay, so in the client, generally have those informations, okay? Then in index.html, we have HTML5, okay? And here we will link, suppose I call what's thing shopping, okay? And we will have a style, which link href, which link to what's thing CSS, main.css, right? And we have type, text, CSS, and we have rel. I remember if we don't have rel, it doesn't work. Okay, you can try again by yourself. And have a script. I will have src, which is JS and main.js. Let's add the type. If we don't add the type, it also works. Okay, JavaScript, right? Okay, now I will have h1. Okay, a product list. You got me? And when we execute, you will have 2 servers. The first one, the server is running in a node on 3000. And here, when I use open live server, it's gonna be on 5500, if I remember correctly. 550, right? I have the thing correct, right? Now the question is what? The question is when my application starts, I want to load all the products. Okay, so I will write all my code in JS, right? Let's take a look at after this short demo. We take a break, okay? And we say we use a fetch, right? We use fetch, right? Fetch the URL, which URL? This one, right? And it's a GET request, right? And as a fetch API talk about, if we don't have any option, it's just a simple GET request. You got me? And in the fetch, it's gonna return a promise, so we can do what thing. Then what? Products, right? Okay, this one actually is not a products. Let me show you. Okay, we talk about it's gonna be 2 stage. Okay. Okay, I'll just do like this way. You understand me? Fetch. Okay, so now let's go to our browser. Go here. We can refresh. We have error, guys. See here. Access to fetch at from origin has blocked by CORS policy. No access. This one is what? This one is this error. Okay. I have to jump 1 slide. Okay. This is a post. This one is called CORS, cross origin resource sharing. Okay, it's a mechanism that users use additional HTTP headers to tell browser to give a web application running at one origin access to selected resource from different origin. So here, our client is running on 5500, right? And our server is running on 300. And same origin means what? See here, the browser, you are not running on the, what's the, did they say some same origin? It's not present. Okay. Anyway, the problem is this origin and this origin are different. What we will consider as the same origin? Same origin means what? Your IP address is same, your